Sri Adi Shankaracharya's Atma Bodha, verses 41 to 68. There are no distinctions such as knower, the knowledge, and the object of knowledge in the Supreme Self. On account of its being of the nature of endless bliss, it does not admit of such distinctions within itself. It alone shines by itself. When thus the lower and the higher aspects of the self are well churned together, the fire of knowledge is born from it, which in its mighty blazing flames shall burn down all the fuel of ignorance in us. The Lord of the early dawn, Aruna himself, has already looted away the thick darkness when soon the sun rises. The divine consciousness of the self rises when the right knowledge has already killed the universal darkness. Atman is an ever-present reality, yet because of ignorance it is not realized. On the destruction of ignorance, Atman is realized. It is like the missing ornament of one's neck. Brahman appears to be a jiva because of ignorance, just as a post appears to be a ghost. The egocentric individuality is destroyed when the real nature of the jiva is realized as the self. The ignorance characterized by the notions I and mine is destroyed by the knowledge produced by the realization of the true nature of the self, just as right information removes the wrong notion about the directions. The yogi of perfect realization and enlightenment sees through his eye of wisdom the entire universe in his own self and regards everything else as his own self and nothing else. Nothing whatever exists other than the Atman. The tangible universe is certainly Atman. As pots and jars are definitely made of clay and cannot be said to be anything but clay, so too, to the enlightened soul, all that is perceived is the self. A liberated one, endowed with self-knowledge, gives up the traits of his previous conditionings, and because of his nature of Satchidananda, he really becomes Brahman like the worm that grows to be a wasp. After crossing the ocean of delusion and killing the monsters of likes and dislikes, the yogi who is united with peace dwells in the glory of his own realized self and abides in the self. The self-abiding Jivan Mukta, relinquishing all his attachments to the illusory external happiness and satisfied with the bliss derived from the Atman, shines inwardly like a lamp placed inside a jar. Though he lives in the conditionings, upadhis, he, the contemplative one, remains ever unconcerned with anything, or he may move about like the wind, perfectly unattached. On the destruction of the upadhis, the contemplative one is totally absorbed in Vishnu, the all-pervading spirit, like water into water, space into space, and light into light. Realize that to be Brahman, the attainment of which leaves nothing more to be attained, the blessedness of which leaves no other blessing to be desired, and the knowledge of which leaves nothing more to be known. Realize that to be Brahman, which, when seen, leaves nothing more to be seen, which having become one is not born again in this world, and which, when knowing, leaves nothing else to be known. Realize that to be Brahman, which is existence, knowledge, bliss, absolute, which is non-dual, infinite, eternal and one, and which fills all the quarters above and below and all that exists between. Realize that to be Brahman, which is non-dual, indivisible, one, and blissful, and which is indicated in the Vedanta as the immutable substratum, realized after the negation of all tangible objects. Deities like Brahma and others taste only a particle of the unlimited bliss of Brahman and enjoy in proportion their share of that particle. All objects are pervaded by Brahman. All actions are possible because of Brahman. Therefore, Brahman permeates everything as butter permeates milk. Realize that to be Brahman, which is neither subtle nor non-subtle, neither short nor long, without birth or change, without form, qualities, color, and name. That by the light of which the luminous orbs like the sun and the moon are illuminated, but which is not illumined by their light, realize that to be Brahman. Pervading the entire universe outwardly and inwardly, the Supreme Brahman shines off itself like the fire that permeates a red-hot iron ball and glows by itself. Brahman is other than this, the universe. There exists nothing that is not Brahman. If any object other than Brahman appears to exist, it is unreal like the mirage. All that is perceived or heard is Brahman and nothing else. Attaining the knowledge of the reality, one sees the universe as the non-dual Brahman, existence, knowledge, bliss, absolute. Though Atman is pure consciousness and ever present everywhere, yet it is perceived by the eye of wisdom alone. But one whose vision is obscured by ignorance, he does not see it, as the blind do not see the resplendent sun. The jiva, free from impurities, being heated in the fire of knowledge, kindled by hearing and so on, shines off itself like gold. The Atman, the sun of knowledge that rises in the sky of the heart, destroys the darkness of the ignorance, pervades and sustains all, and shines and makes everything to shine. He who, renouncing all activities, who is free of all the limitations of time, space, and direction, worships his own Atman, which is present everywhere, which is the destroyer of heat and cold, which is bliss eternal and stainless, becomes all-knowing and all-pervading, and attains thereafter immortality. Thus concludes the Atma Bodha, knowledge of the self, text.